So neurodivergence is not a diagnosis. Help us understand that.
Okay. There's a very simple way that you can start to think about this to understand why it's both an identity and a difference and a condition. So our brains develop many, many, many different ways. We all have different brains, right? There are some common ways brains develop that the vast majority of people share some common characteristics. And then there are some people whose brains develop from the beginning quite differently. They connect differently. The different parts of the brain speak to each other differently. That's why we do brain imaging, to understand neurodivergence, how the brains get constructed differently, connect differently, and work differently, right? So there's quite a bit of variability on how our brains develop, and some brains are more different than other brains, if I may use that expression. So that is about the neurodiversity and neurodivergence, right? So there's many, many different brains, and some brains are more different than others. That is not a condition on its own, right? The fact that we have different brains is not a condition.
No.
When a neurodivergent condition then gets associated with significant challenges in the way we learn, in behavior, in how we understand the world, with how we cope with sensory input, then we have a condition, right? So theoretically, you can have a neurodivergent brain and not have a condition if you're not experiencing a lot of challenges. Right. You just experience your difference, right? But everybody who has the condition also has the divergence, experiences the difference. So for most people who come to ask for help in a healthcare system, they have both. They have a brain that developed different from the beginning, therefore they're neurodivergent, and they have a condition that produces challenges, and that's why they come to their doctor or their health provider to ask for help. But in the general population, you can find people who experience neurodivergence without having a condition, right? Or their brain has developed different, but they're actually not feeling that they need to be supported by the healthcare system, right? So neurodivergence itself is not a condition, but we have conditions often associated with neurodivergence, like autism, like ADHD, like intellectual disability, tic disorders, other dyslexia, learning problems. Those are all both a divergent situation and a condition that requires help.
And as you would expect, it's a continuum in a way, and there's threshold. In some families, in many families, we see all of these different aspects. The brain is the most sophisticated, not only organ, but entity that you could ever imagine. So there's all kinds of variables that can influence this. I see autism as it's the human condition,
right?
And one of the reasons we study it is so interesting. It gives us insight into the biology of the brain, as we've talked about, and cognition and social interaction. These are the things that make us most human, right? And it's incredible.